Your father's passing has left us in a tangle.
Spoiler alert. It is reasonable to say that the stakes are higher than ever after Season 2 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power concluded. Sauron has to keep making moves to manufacture the One Ring. Things have become harder on the heroes as the Siege of Eregion is backfiring, giving him less influence over the previous rings forged with Celebrimbor. Furthermore, the strife within other kingdoms only serves to complicate Sauron's ambitions to subjugate Middle-earth. It builds to a series of dramatic scenes that would be explored in Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings films, shaping the end of the Second Age and the start of the Third. In light of that, this is how the program wraps out its second season.
Run, father!
Welcome to Movie Spy. Prince Durin IV ascends with a heavy crown in Rings of Power. Season 2 reveals more chaos for Khazad-dûm. In the Khazad-dûm caves, King Durin III and Prince Durin IV ultimately find a solution to their conflict. After finding a hidden crack, the king shows the prince Mithril during the civil war in the mines of Moria. Sadly, J.R.R. Tolkien's Balrog emerges and murders the king. The prince is left holding his father's ring as the place crumbles, shutting the monster off. Disa, the prince's wife, acknowledges that rival dwarf lords want a piece of the seven rings that Anatar Sauron sent.
The lords of the Blue Mountains paid him vast tributes, and they're demanding to collect.
The prince's brother is also vying for the throne. Prince Durin IV knows that the fighting will intensify. He is seen eyeing the rings, which has fans wondering if he will be tempted to use them to sway lords or to fend off rivals. Season 2 of Rings of Power leaves Pelargir in chaos. Pelargir begins to be enslaved by Numenor. The Numenor Game of Thrones spills over into Pelargir. Kemen arrives with his troops and makes it clear that Pelargir won't be a colony. It'll be a fortress for his sea kingdom. He promises his father, the new regent in Pharazôn, will send food and other resources, but only if they get timber and weapons. This blackmail leaves Rings of Power's Theo stunned and worried. Hagen and Estrid are petrified too. They all sense a slave camp coming. This is the oppression they all feared the Uruk-hai and orcs would bring them. It turns out Kemen is the vain fascist commander sowing all this intimidation among his own group. Rings of Power Season 2 gives Elendil and Isildur a new mission. Miriel and her colonies must be liberated. Encountered in Rings of Power, Elendil escapes Numenor armed with Narsil, the sword dubbed the White Flame. He will need it to mobilize men and elves who are devoted to the Valar. Elendil must stop Pharazôn's coup and release Miriel, the queen who is imprisoned. The issue lies in the fact that Pharazôn has designated religious fighters such as Isildur as allies of Sauron. Ironically, Isildur is traveling to Numenor by water. Isildur believes he will meet his father, but he is unaware that he would run into individuals who are after his head. This lays the groundwork for him to eventually locate his father and figure out how to free Pelargir and Numenor. This hints at Isildur becoming king of Gondor and taking the blade for himself, one he'd confront Sauron with in the Lord of the Rings movies. Season 2 of Rings of Power hints to a terrifying war for Gandalf, accepting his role as a heroic wizard, the Stranger. In the Rings of Power Season 2, the Stranger finally employs magic during a battle with the Dark Wizard. In an attempt to mislead the Stranger into believing he is a friend, the latter murders a few of the rune hunters. However, the Stranger fights back when the magician tries to kill Poppy, Nori, and the Stores in order to teach the Stranger what pain is like. The wizard eventually leaves, and the Stranger eventually receives his staff. He goes to Rory Kinnear's Tom Bombadil and adopts the Grand Elf, or Gandalf persona. Though Gandalf is aware that he is facing a great battle, he is unclear about some aspects of it. He will have to battle Sauron, but he is not sure the wizard is his enemy because Sauron was only attempting to incite his wrath in order to prepare him for Sauron. Regardless, the sorcerer remains a highly sinister character, culminating in a fixed gaze upon the heavens, suggesting a rematch with Gandalf. Season 2 of Rings of Power offers the Harfoots a new mission. Poppy and Nori proceed with the Stores. Poppy and Nori determine they are ready for another migration. The Harfoots had to locate the Stores somewhere to live. It is their way of paying respect to the borough's history, which served as the foundation for the Harfoot dynasties. With a new inheritance in hand, Nori and Poppy wish Gandalf farewell. They are adamant that they must now write their own narrative. This chapter implies that the new alliance of halflings will, in fact, end up creating the Shire. Though losing his buddies hurts Gandalf, they all believe that this is the best course of action for everyone. Mass casualties in the Eregion are revealed in Rings of Power Season 2, Celebrimbor, and Adar's claims in the Siege of Eregion. The fight in the Eregion gets bloodier still. Angry that he does not have the 9 rings for men, Sauron murders Celebrimbor. In addition, Glug, Adar's lieutenant, kills him by betraying him because he believes Sauron will be a better parent to the orcs. More elven lives are lost in the conflict as well because Sauron intends to use his newly acquired Uruk to exact revenge on the heroes. Unbelievably, Sauron deceives the Uruk once more. After killing Glug, he demonstrates to the orcs that he is neither their father nor their leader, unlike Adar. A monster like Sauron will avariciously employ orcs as pawns, and then abandon them when they are no longer needed. But Sauron does indeed forcefully take the 9 rings from Galadriel, propelling him forward on his own mission. In this instance, his goals are to locate the men who own these rings and to raise a new army following Eregion's collapse and burning. Season 2 of Rings of Power reveals the origin of Rivendell. Elrond's elves are getting ready for the upcoming battle. Redemption was the theme of Season 2. When they battle in the end, Galadriel physically and metaphorically battles against Sauron's taint. After being poisoned and losing her immortality, Elrond uses Galadriel's ring, Nenya, and King Gil-galad uses his ring to restore her very fabric. Building a new base distant from Lindon is the finest battle plan. Galadriel concedes, with Arondir at her side and her essence restored, it will be nearer Sauron and Mordor. As ardent lovers would attest, this is the location that would eventually transform into Rivendell. Although Gil-galad leads his people in this climax, which takes place years ago, Elrond will eventually take charge of this camp. Finally, the elves are unified despite the collateral harm. They are determined to use the rings for the benefit of society and have faith in one another. Thanks for watching.